there is this beautiful thing started by the Ministry of Education and the National Council for Teacher Education called the National Mission for Mentoring. So out of the 47 lakh plus teachers, they've chosen 60 teachers of our country to become mentors, and I'm one of them. Like being a Miss India is such a beautiful thing, you know. Like I have especially girls from rural India who come into my class and go back home saying that, you know, but hamari teacher to Miss India hai.
Hey, my dear listeners, welcome back to yet another episode of Inspire Someone Today. We are in the nervous 90s. This is in the last leg to our big milestone of getting to 100 episodes shortly. Hey, whom do we have today? We have a special guest, a wonderful human being in Swaroop Sampat, a top-notch educator, a former Miss India, represented the country at Miss Universe, has been recognized as one of the top 10 finalists of the Global Teacher Prize in 2019, making her way in a silent revolution to the education sector, being part of the central government's program of mentoring top teachers in the country. Somebody who fits into this bill of system doesn't like audacious teachers, but the student do. It's an absolute joy to have Swaroop on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Swaroop, thank you for taking time and joining us today.
So thank you for inviting me, Shrikant. It's such a pleasure to be here. And especially considering we're talking about my favorite topics.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking time. So there is so much that we would want to talk with you, Swaroop. I think first I would start off with, like I mentioned in the intro, the significant change that you have kind of taken in your career. You have been at the forefront of the theater. You have been a very well recognized theater personality. Been in the spotlight in the entertainment industry, more so with all of those sitcoms. People in my era can definitely relate to some of those sitcoms. Ye Jo Hai Zindagi, and then now spearheading in the education sector. Boy, what's been a tremendous transformation. All of this needs one to step out of the comfort zone, isn't it? How did you step out of those comfort zones and on embarking this wonderful journey, Swaroop?
Yeah, so it's been like really very exciting. In all stages, you know, you're kind of out of your comfort zone, especially when you're doing theater and films and television. You know, when we started Ye Jo Hai Zindagi, everybody kind of looked down on us for 3 episodes at least. And they said only losers do television. But we were very sure about what we were doing. So we were quite happy to be doing it. And in the 4th episode, the one with the sofa come bed episode, we just became the most loved ones of the whole nation, or wherever Indians were. I remember my cousin stays in Leicester, and she said that, you know, we used to keep waiting for the installment of the episode of Ye Jo Hai Zindagi to come, because that was the pre-internet days. And, you know, like the pneumatic tapes used to go, like actually the videotapes used to go to England and America, wherever there were Indians and Indian libraries. So, but when we were starting it, we were definitely not in any comfort zone at all. So I guess I'm just used to doing that. I got married after Ye Jo Hai Zindagi, had kids, stopped working a lot in films and things like that, because you see, Paresh was getting so much work. You know, he was really becoming huge at that time, you know. And at that time was the time of shifts. So Paresh used to practically do three shifts in a day. So, going from one studio to another. I did not want him to stay back at home. Well, one of us had to decide to stay at home, and I chose to do that because I think Paresh is a much better actor than I am. And I think I'm a much better housekeeper, teacher, and everything else than he is. If he was taking care of the kids' education, there would have been chaos. Not because he's not intelligent, but one day I asked him to teach Anirudh J, and he started teaching him Z. And I said, hello, I just said J, not Z. So, it's like that. So I said, listen, you go to work, I'll stay at home. And but staying at home was great learning even. But then I used to go with the kids to their school, and then I was still, that's when I got interested in, education as a field. I'm sure you know that because I've said it 100 million times already that I was a college dropout. So I dropped out of college when I was about 19. And then I started studying again when Anirudh and Aditya were in school, and I became a special ed. And so I guess what is comfort zone? It's always good to venture into the unknown.
That's a wonderful take on that, Swaroop. And along this journey, did it ever occur to you what people kind of attribute as emotional, I wouldn't say blackmailing, but emotional upheaval, saying that, oh, I had a thriving career in the theater, in the film industry. Look, here I am taking care of kids, taking care of completely different than what you have done. And was that the sense of regret or sense of dissatisfaction at any point while you're doing this, saying that how I wish I continued to stay there?
No, 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 no. And luckily, I've always been there because Paresh was, working, and we were doing theater, and I was the producer of our production. And in fact, when I was doing my PhD, Paresh had cast me in a play called Shadi@Barbadi.com, which we toured the whole of America. So I was working little. And as it is, I was always the kind, I don't think I can do acting 24/7, being in the studio and not doing anything else. Somehow I think I've realized now that I think education and teaching is the only thing I can do 24/7, 365 days. Either actually teaching or preparing for the teaching or reflecting on my work. But, the film and the glamour and all that, I was never away from it. And I'm quite happy to have a little bit of it with me all the time. And that's enough for me. I'm not so greedy. I don't want every journal to write about me. I don't want all newspapers to write about me. I don't want to be on every television interview. I don't want to be in every film. I don't want the whole world to be at my feet because of my glamour. What I'm getting is fantastic. Like just now we've done, there's the Chitralekha magazine has come up with this beautiful article on 5 teachers. And they say, like 100 salams to these teachers. And, the cover says that, oh, this is a way you can teach too. And that's the cover. And I'm one of the teachers who, is using innovative methods to teach. And Chitralekha has written such an incredible article on us saying that what a beautiful way to teach. So I am getting my fair share of glamour, and, coverage and things like that. And I'm happy with it.
I think that's a great way to put it, good perspective, and also kind of shows the modest nature that you have in terms of what you have accomplished, but still staying very grounded to that. We'll come to that bit of your journey. Before that, this is also in lot many ways answering to the true calling that you have had. Is that fair to kind of call it that way?
Absolutely. I definitely think. I always say that, God was probably preparing me for this. Like he made me a theater actor, he made me a film actor, So, like today, like just as we were getting ready to do this, I said, I'm very comfortable in front of the camera. I'm very good at doing sound recording. Like in 2017, I did a very, very beautiful satellite program for Gujarat State, where I taught 2.5 lakh teachers simultaneously. A lot of teachers do it, but nobody could do what I do because, I'm used to the camera. I know how to talk. I know how to use my voice. The other thing is that actors are such great storytellers and teachers should be great storytellers. So, I was getting prepared for that. Like being a Miss India is such a beautiful thing, Like I have especially girls from rural India who come into my class and go back home saying that, but hamari teacher to Miss India hai. So it's so beautiful. The other thing is that, glamour and all has given me this wonderful name, Swaroop Sampat. And, with Paresh, Swaroop Sampat Raval, I can walk into anybody's office by just saying I'm there. I'm at your door. I would like to see you. Maybe an ordinary teacher may not get that, appointment, but I do. So definitely, I think God was preparing me for all this to make me the most wonderful teacher.
As God and you were preparing for this, I think along this journey, there is also that bit of difficult choices or sacrifices that you had to make. Anything that you can share, any anecdotes that you can share with me and my listeners?
Most, like the first one I can think of is, sitting in Booster in the cold in an empty university, because I used to go in July when, the university was nearly over, before the September would start. So it used to be very bare. And you know what the bare universities look like? It's really not so great. And I remember sitting on the steps one day, looking far into the mountain hills and thinking, God, what am I doing here? Why am I not comfortable in my house? It used to be so difficult, because, for example, when I was studying at Booster, I used to have to walk 20 minutes to High Street to get the food, come back, and then, cook it for yourself, which is so boring. And then, you're studying and doing so much. So that's one. The other thing is, difficulties you face. Like when I started doing my PhD, I did not know the hour of research. And I did not know life skills. And the title was given to me, to use life skills with drama. And because I was thinking of social skills and not life skills. So I had to sit and learn all that, so much of reading while my children were, reaching stages of their board exams. I remember while I was writing my PhD, Anirudh was giving his 10th standard board exams. So, it was really difficult. Another thing I'll never forget is a letter I got from one of my supervisors when he said that, Swaroop, I have the experience of 24 PhDs. If you submit this, you're going to fail. And I said, no, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to be really innovative and going to stick my ground. Because first of all, my PhD was in first person. So it was I believe and not the researcher. And then there were three voices. One was Swaroop Sampat, the person. One was Swaroop, the researcher. And the third was the student's voice. Now, all these voices were written in different fonts. Nobody's thought of something like that, Like all the analysis are presented as stories and not numbers and graphs. So, they were a bit shocked at it. And I remember when I walked into my Viva, my external examiner got up and he said, Swaroop, at the onset, we want to tell you we've passed you. We've never had a PhD like this. So, yes, things have been very, very difficult. Another one I'll give, which was, of course, not, I think it was maybe 2018 or something like that, which you will find very interesting, is very close to home. I started teaching in Maharashtra, in the sensitive districts of Maharashtra. And I was going to the extreme tribal area of Nandurbar. And I very happily went there. The journey was tough, like it was 8 hour drive, and then overnight, and then 1.5 hour on a single lane ghat up to Toranmal. And I met the teachers there. And I started teaching them about what I believe in, like teaching should be fun and teachers should care and teachers should love. And, much later, they were stunned and they became my friends. And much later, they told me that they had actually planned, to invite me there, get photographs taken, and then just send me back to Mumbai. Like, who is she to come to teach us? Little did they know that, they would fall in love with me and me with them. And, we become best friends. But, always it is that, oh, what does she know? Like, even when I went to Gujarat and I started teaching the teachers of Gujarat, it would be, this woman's come from Mumbai, studied in English, speaks English like not what we speak. Their pronunciation of English is different. My English is very, Mumbai, my Gujarati is very, Mumbai Gujarati. My Marathi is Mumbai Marathi. And who is she to come to teach us? But I think I've, suffered through it, stayed in dirty rooms and traveled distances where, the whole day you're not gone to the loo. I remember when I used to go to Nandurbar, the food was impossible for me to eat because it was so tribal. And I did not want to harass them. So I still literally take food from home and go, like my khakra, my tea packets, cucumber, tomatoes, and, all that in a bag so that I would sit in my room and eat that. Because I could not eat the hot tribal food, which was really spicy and oily. Lots of things. I mean, food and all is the last. The thing is that you're not welcome, or you're treated like a stranger, or who is she to teach us? These things are very difficult because you're already in such a vulnerable position. You're in a place which is away from home. You're alone. It's not really comfortable, We are not, like, I always envy Paresh. Like, whenever he's traveling, they stay in 5-star hotels. And I'm traveling, I stay in huts and, places like that. So totally tough.
I cannot say that I can get it because your journey has been your journey, you have lived through it. We can only kind of in hindsight say that hats off to what you have done. And through this, what you have also demonstrated, the Swaroop, is from the stardom of being Miss India, being in the theater, now taking on the role in the education sector, and also from a college dropout to holding two PhDs. What you have demonstrated is change is possible. And you was that hope ray of change saying that, look, I have done this, I have demonstrated, I'm just not saying this, I have demonstrated it. This is for everybody to kind of look at it. So in that month of change is possible, what is that you would kind of recommend to people who are sitting on the fence, who are do not do kind of a stuff to kind of take action? What do you say as a take action step?
Take the leap. I think that's the best, Just don't worry, you'll be fine, But you have to do it. You can't just sit or, procrastinate. Kal karungi, kal karungi. Nahi, kal kabhi nahi aayega. If not now, then when? So just do it. If you believe in it so much, if you have the passion for it, if you care so much, just do it.
You have trained like 10,000 teachers.
No, much more than that. In Gujarat, at one time, I simultaneously taught 2.5 lakh teachers at one time. So, in 2017, 2016, I had taught each and every government school teacher in Gujarat. Then I've taught teachers in Maharashtra. I've taught teachers in Rajasthan. Besides the odd workshops I've done in Uri, in Madurai, in Jharkhand, and right now I'm doing something which is even more not more interesting, but equally interesting, is there is this beautiful thing started by the Ministry of Education and the National Council for Teacher Education, called the National Mission for Mentoring. So out of the 47 lakh plus teachers, they've chosen 60 teachers of our country to become mentors, and I'm one of them. And we're mentoring the other teachers to use the new methods of the national education policy.
So I think what you are doing is just not about in the field of education, but also about impact, the scale at which your way of teaching is kind of impacting a lot of teachers out there. And you did mention about the new education policy. Maybe for the benefit of all the listeners out here, a quick bird's preview of the importance of NEP and what should our listeners do in order to make NEP a success.
I want to say that the NEP 2020 is one of the world's best documents. It is brilliant. It is such a good thing. And it is so great for our children and our education. So it goes beyond education for children. It's for the youth and lifelong learning too. I will tell you about that. So it's got, they've literally thought of everything and it's there. The other thing that they want to change is, we want to do art integrated studies in school. We want sports integration in school. Things like they've got the nursery into schools, which is so beautiful. And remember, when I'm talking about this, we're not talking about the elite schools. We're not talking about the people, right on top of the, creamy layer types. We're talking about rural India. We're talking about vulnerable and marginalized India. Because, before there was that separation with the Anganwadi and the Balwadi away from school. Well, now they've brought it back into school, which is super. Because now, the progress will happen better. Then they've, done all the different divisions of 5+5 and all that. One beautiful thing that they've asked for and which we have done because I've helped write the position papers. And I'm not the only one. There are 100 of us chosen to write the position papers and do the recommendations for the curriculum. And we talked of getting the knowledge of India into our schools from nursery and kindergarten. Now, what does knowledge of India mean? The knowledge of India means our festivals, our books, our epics, our culture, all of that, which, was getting diverted because, everybody's just talking of English. At the expense of that, we are missing out on our beautiful folk poems and folk stories and our Mahabharata and our Ramayana and our Panchatantra stories, which need to be used and taught to our kids. So, that's what's coming back. Another great thing is that the higher level, 11th and 12th, we've introduced a subject called knowledge, the Indian knowledge system. That was knowledge of India. I'm talking of Indian knowledge system. The Indian knowledge system is the Veds and the Stotras and, the Shastras and learning about that. The introduction of Sanskrit as a spoken language, mother tongue as the language. It's such a wrong interpretation when people said that the national education policy is forcing you to learn Hindi. It isn't. It's forcing you to learn your state language or your mother tongue, which is fantastic because, if all our kids learned our mother tongue, from the beginning and were proud about it, English, so people will learn. I have one person like that in my home. I learned English as, from nursery. And the school told my parents, please speak to her in English. I am so weak in Gujarati. I'm not so great at Hindi, Marathi, Whereas we have Paresh in our house who learned Gujarati as his first language in a Gujarati school. And his English is as good as mine. He reads the same books I read. In fact, he watches better films than I do. Like I watch, really pink girly films and he's watching, world films. He is watching world theater. He's reading world theater. He reads such complex books. He is fantastic in English. So it's so wrong to think that, if you learn your mother tongue, you'll not learn English. It's rubbish. But if if you learn your mother tongue, you're going to be grounded. His roots are deep in India. I had to really work to get there. I had to cut off parts of my, basic primary education and all that to find a new route to get to what India is. And I think all parents should do that. First, teach your kids about India. First thing, because as an educational, a person who studied educational psychology and the person who's worked in as a counselor and a special ed and all that, and a life skill educator. When we talk of self-esteem, one of that comes from your culture, your religion, your country, your roots, अपनी मिट्टी से आता है ये, the self-esteem, your history. How proud are you about it? If you keep listening to the rubbish that's been taught to us that, we were losers, we are going to be losers. But if we really look into our history and our culture, and then we will realize, that our confidence is great, our self-esteem is so high. My self-esteem is so high because I'm so proud that I'm an Indian. Everybody's talking of SDG 2030. One very important part of SDG 2030 is culture. And what is culture? Culture is your festivals, your religion, everything about your mitti, your country, your history. And if SDG 2030 is saying that each country has to revive and work on their culture and their religion, why are we not doing it?
So this is lot more far reaching than just education. Like you mentioned, there is skill enhancement, there is that character building that is out there. And that kind of led you to in some shape or form to what you kind of penned in a beautiful book, which is Play, Practice and Pursue. There's a lot of elements that is there in NEP, finds a reference in that book. And also your pet project, the 10-day Bagless School project. Walk us through your book, walk us through some of those innovative stuff that is there in the book. And I must say that the reviews that is out there is outstanding. And as something, as a takeaway from this conversation, we are going to give away for few of our lucky winners a signed copy of this book, Swaroop. And to commemorate Teachers' Day, I am personally handing it over to some of my teachers and some of the teachers within our learning community.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to hear that because this book is a very, very interesting book. This Bagless School was something I have been, planning and wanting to do since ages. In fact, I've been doing it. Since 2007, I've been doing these 10-day drama camps in a village where I used to teach one subject through drama. Then later on, last one I did over there was a 10-day camp in which I taught filmmaking because I believe that our children need to be exposed to different kind of vocations. Another thing is that India is a country of over 2,500 plus arts and crafts, which will die if our children don't learn them. You see, we need to learn them. There are so many things. For example, the Banarsi weaving. If a young child doesn't learn it, he's not going to start, he or she is not going to start liking it when he is, an adult. So they have to be exposed to it. That feeling of the mitti while you're making the pot. Now they do it as therapy and all that. But no, the love of creating a pot, and all that has to be taught at a very young age. And so that's what I'm trying to say in Play, Practice and Pursue is that from the 5th, 6th standard, children need to learn different vocations. And maybe they would like something like my father used to take me to the theater. And, I would see theater lighting being done, theater booking, the seat allocation happening, people doing makeup. So for me, it was never to become just an actress, I was more interested in other parts of theater. My children went to the theater too. And one very interesting thing, which I always quote and talk about, and it's in the book too, Spielberg, one of the most famous film director, his father gave him a camera when he was very young. And, he used to shoot films at that age. My children used to make plays at that age, when they were in the 5th, 6th standard, on their own. There is a lot more to learn besides, just doing a play or, doing something, which you're doing in a group. For example, like my students did soap making, or, they did Gaya Dharit Sajeev Keti, to work as a team, to take responsibility, to, help the ones who are not as strong as you. All that, comes into it. You're learning major life skills in that. So it's a very, very important part of learning. That's there in the book. There are lots of other things in the book, and there's one thing which I like very much, Shrikant, in the book, is when I'm talking about holistic learning, that we are more than just intelligence and emotion. So everybody, before it was just intelligence. And suddenly people realize, no, even emotions. But we are more than that. There is IQ, intelligent quotient, EQ, emotional quotient. Then there is PQ, that's physical quotient. Then there is SQ, that's social quotient. Then there is SPQ, that's spiritual quotient. And there is AQ, that's aesthetic quotient. And I think it's all that which makes a human being. That's what makes a person. So we need to encourage all this in the school. Of course, people would say, oh, there's so much. But then don't you think we're just laying too much stress on learning just the text? The text can be learned in a different way. And are you at any time telling me that the physical health is not important? And then when you are in society, in school, at home, your social quotient is not important? And what about that which is you? What about empowering yourself? How is that going to come? What about your, your spiritual quotient? And who's going to see the beauty of it all? When we talk of environment, how are we going to save the environment if we don't see it as something that's so beautiful given to us? If we don't see the beauty in the tiger, or we don't see a beauty in that little flower growing, or we don't see the beauty in a beautiful clouded sky and not, toxic air, that will come through aesthetics and spiritual. So if we want a beautiful world, it has to be all this, and it has to be holistic learning.
Holistic learning, and you have been at it for quite some time now. You did mention about introducing Bagless School days right from 2007. You did a lot of projects in Gujarat. What has been some of those anecdotes, some of those changes by virtue of schools or teachers or communities adapting this? Any one or two stories that you can share where you have seen this change?
So much, one lovely one I'll tell you about Maharashtra, where they were started teaching through drama. So, the bags are kind of there, but, they're doing the whole lesson through drama. So there was one shepherd boy who had to take his, goats and cows to, wo charane leke jana tha. And he would come to eat the midday meal in Toranmal, Nandurbar. He would come to eat the midday meal and eat the midday meal and go away. And the teachers would tell him, why don't you stay back? So he would tell the teachers, ke, tumko malum nahi, baap marega. Mera baap mujhe marega if I don't take my goat to have their feed, like I have to take them, I've got to go and take care of all that. And then these teachers learned about, they were wonderful teachers, no doubt. But they learned about drama and education from me, and they started applying drama and a lot of these beautiful methods of teaching in their classroom. Now, this boy would come to eat the midday meal, and he would be there a little before or used to hang on a little afterwards. And we saw these kids having so much fun and learning. So, what he would do is he would go and tie up all his goats or put them in a sheltered place and then hang out in school the whole day. So, the teachers told him, "Kya hua? बाप मारेगा नहीं." तो he says, मेरे बाप में अक्कल थोड़ी है, मुझे पढ़ना है. So you see, it's fantastic. In Toranmal, we've re-engaged over 500 students, little kids who started coming to school and become regular because of this art integrated and drama integrated method of teaching and life skills, and which is a lot of this a part of this Bagless thing.
You're giving them skills beyond the classroom, life skills, like you said, which might come in handy, or which is something that they can kind of, who knows, they can find a Swaroop in themselves and find their calling one fine day.
Yes, of course. And another thing is, it's so nice to be out of your classroom, isn't it? And still learning.
We'll slip into the other side of this conversation, get to know the other side of Swaroop, what we call here as the power of 3 round Swaroop. So if you are ready, we'll get started. Here is the first of the power of 3 round coming to you, Swaroop. 3 routines that is unique to Swaroop.
Reading. I have to read a lot. So it doesn't have to be books all the time. Of course, like it could be on the internet too. So that's a very important part of my routine. Another part of my routine, which a lot of people have started getting used to now, is don't invite her at 5:30 because she wants to be home at 6. I just have to be home at 6, come what may. And, at 6:05, 6:10, I have to have my dinner and my coffee in my hand, like with my feet up. So that's one very important part of my routine. Another part of my routine is, people may find it very weird to say kind of, but I have to do my Pilates. So that's a form of exercise. And my cousin Samir, my brother, who's 2 months older than me, he's my cousin, but I call him my bro. He owns that studio, and in Mumbai and elsewhere too. So he does Pilates, and I have to do it. So if I've not done my Pilates, I am like lost. So these are the 3 things I just have to do: reading,
That's the
be home
secret
at
behind
6,
all of
and
that
my Pilates.
energy, Swaroop. You had a slight preview to my next question, which is what are the 3 book recommendations?
Oh, 3 book recommendations. I shall recommend my book first. Everybody has to get this. Play, Practice, Pursue, because it's more than just a book. It's a lot of things, and I'm sure you're going to have to read it at least 2 to 3 times to get a lot of it from it. Okay, I'll give you a different one by one author, like lots and lots of books of hers I read and recommend, is Maxine Green. But today I'm going to take the name of a very different book, which I normally don't talk about. And it's called The Passionate Mind of Maxine Green. I Am Not Yet. She is one of the most incredible philosophers. There is always the whole lot of Agatha Christie series. So I can't name just one book of hers, but Aditya, my younger son, and I are crazy and madly in love with Agatha Christie. So we've got we just got all her books, nearly. Sometimes we go and we buy each other a book and we say, look, first don't write inside because we may have to go and change it because, it may be there in our library.
So Swaroop, you've always been asked this question, which is, what would be your advice to your younger self? There's a twist to this question. My question here is, what are your 3 advices to your older self?
One advice to my older self is please don't leave Pilates ever. Because, there was a time in between when I was so busy and I was so irregular. And then, I started developing a bit of problem in my knee and, I started getting tired and, things like that. Another advice I will give to my older self is something I hate giving it. So I'm telling you the truth. It's a confession. I don't like to give this advice, but I'm giving it. Please, Swaroop, get off sugar. I love sweets. I'm like crazy and madly. I mean, like if you tell me, Swaroop, for 15 days, nothing namkeen, only meetha, and I'm saying, okay, I can start the day with meetha and end the day with meetha, and I will not miss anything in between. But, I realized that that's not such a great thing. So I will say that advice to my older self. Please get off this sugar business. So it was Pilates, sugar, and both are health related. One advice I will not give my older self, and that is don't care what anybody else says. Just don't talk of becoming slower or, giving up on all the work. Always find some way to continue. Maybe if I can't do it physically, if you can't do it physically, be a teacher, somehow or the other, go on supporting somebody, education and spirituality. Just go on working more and more.
And in your space, who are the 3 educators to look out for?
In my space, one educator to really look out for is this person called Nima Paresh. I've talked about her in my book. I know her since 2007. And I'll tell you something very interesting about her. She was a very young girl when I met her in 2007. She promised herself that that is the last workshop she's ever going to do. And after that, she stopped going to be a teacher. But she came into my classroom and she started loving teaching. And, she's grown in leaps and bounds. We've worked together and now we're more like friends, mother and daughter, colleagues. I don't know, there's no name for this relationship. But like I'll give you an example. In 2019, her school was Lavard Primary School. Within a year, it became Adarsh Primary School, Lavard. And now I'm so proud to say that it is the PM Shri School. The PM Shri School is the schools adopted by the Prime Minister and the PMO. No, by the Prime Minister. There are 1,400 schools, rural schools all over India that have been chosen, and hers is one of them. So that just speaks for what she is, because now, in 2017, I think, she became the head teacher. Former teacher, she's become the head teacher of the same school she joined as a young girl. So I think she is great. She's very good. She's got incredible philosophical ideas towards learning too. As a government school teacher, she's got published papers. She's written this book. She's adapting this book in Gujarati for me. She's incredible. So that's one. Another person I would talk about is not a teacher, but she is in a very much higher position. She's the director and all that. Her name is Swati Popatwats. We had a long journey too together. She was my student's teacher. When I was learning special ed, she taught me too. Now we are colleagues. She is in the head of the Early Childhood Association. And she's doing incredible work in early years. You may say, what are you talking about? I mean, like all friends, but yes. The thing is, Shrikanam, if we are speaking together at a function, I know you're not going to believe me, but I'm nervous. Like she set the benchmark so high, she's so good that, yes. So 2, 3, somebody who's doing a lot of work in education, but is not a teacher, started off as a teacher, but is doing to help schools set up, In that case, I would put two people together. One is a person who teaches, who's made this beautiful program in higher education. Her name is Seema Mahajan. And the other person is Francis Joseph. Both of them, started off as teachers. Seema to still teaches, but Francis is in school, Seema is in higher education, but these are people who are really changing the scene in India. There are lots of other teachers I can talk about, but these are the ones that come straight to mind.
I think the teaching community, the impact that I have made in the country, on the globe, is beyond what you can kind of put together in a list. But we will kind of settle down with what we have for now.
You're so right. You said that. When I went to Dubai for the 2019 Global Teacher Prize, I'm not running them down, so don't misunderstand me that way. I met teachers who are Global Prize winners and, who are doing lots of stuff. And I thought, hey, I already know somebody like this in India. I know somebody in that village who's, even better than this, I know somebody who's already doing this, in some remote village in India. Our teachers are fantastic. I'm telling you this. We just need to make circumstances better for them.
So very true. Give them the platform, make the circumstances better, and we will have a mission that we can
Absolutely.
accomplish. The last of the power of three round, Swaroop. Three sources where you draw inspiration from.
The first is my parents, and sadly they're not there anymore. But they've taught me so much that I don't think that source would ever diminish. I still can go back to what they've taught me. And to this, I would even add my mother-in-law. So three of them in one slot, who taught me so much that I can keep on going back to what they've taught me and, take it forward. They're all there with me, telling me this. I remember my mother-in-law telling me, to work on spirituality. And I thought, what she told me about 15, 20 years back is so good, Like my dad, his incredible love for the arts, theater, films, paintings. He introduced me to Picasso, Van Gogh, Spielberg, Ingmar Bergman, Ingrid Bergman, all these great filmmakers and actors and, all that. My mother, who was a surgical oncologist, who had that research mind, I think I inherited that from her. How to be very particular about your work and something so interesting, like once my son was sitting in the clinic in the hospital and a doctor came by and the doctor asked him, who are you? So he says, I'm Dr. Swaroop Sampat's grandson. And that doctor turns around and tells him that, your grandmother is so perfect and so intelligent that if her signature's on the paper, nobody in the world can challenge it. And it's so funny that that's what I dreamt of, and I used to pray to God that nobody could challenge my PhD, So, that's the kind of inspiration they've given me. So if you want to take it at these three and stop, I'm okay. Okay, then the next would be my hubby, and who've always been with me all through. Met him when I was 17, and kind of made me an actress, and Shafi bhai, and he said, "Come on, acting kar lo," but it brought me into this beautiful world. Who encouraged me from not losing myself, because I started studying again because of him. I reached that stage where I was so comfortable reading trashy romantic novels and, not being inspirational. And he said, Swaroop, is this what you've fallen to? And I said, well, I need to think. So he said, you need to do something, and I started studying again. So I think he is that inspiration. Another thing he told me is when I started working, he said, don't take money for this. He says, don't take money when you're working in education. He says, we have enough. That really put me on the top. Except when I worked at Sardar Patel, till then, very rarely have I accepted money for when I'm teaching. Not that money is bad, but then that puts me on the top because I'm in charge of what I'm doing. And it made me feel better because I was actually doing this for the children of my country. So I'm happy. The other thing is that people needed to realize that this is Swaroop Sampat. She can go out and earn 100 times more than what you can pay her if she just went to films. In one day, I could earn what they're giving me, more than what they're giving me in a year. So, they needed to value what I'm bringing to the table. So that's him. And my kids, Anirudh and Aditya, who are always pushing me on to do things and yet take care of myself. So I know it's all my family.
You make a great point. Sometimes we tend to see everywhere else but within the family for inspiration when there's so much happening just around us as well. So you make a very great point saying that you draw your inspiration within your close circle of your family members. And one thing I must ask you, because I have seen some of Paresh Rawal's interviews where he has attributed a lot of his success to you. And here I am talking to you and you're attributing a lot of your success to Paresh ji. What's the beautiful thing that's between the two of you and how have you nurtured this relationship?
See, that was bound to happen. We met when I was 17 or 16, just out of school. And he was in college. He's such a sincere person. The minute he saw me, he says, I want to marry this girl. So it's not even, I want to have an affair with her or, she's beautiful or, whatever. He was just so sincere about it. And he told me that, I don't want to waste my energy in relationships that are not going to be lasting, or in rubbish relationships. So that was one thing. The other thing is we practically grew up together. If you see our library, we have books that we've gifted each other, on our 18th birthday, on our 19th birthday. And, there's a quote in it, may your dreams come true, and, things like that. So that was that age when we were dreaming of our careers or dreaming about what life would be. And we were there to support each other through it. Of course, all relationships have, fights and, anger and, differences. I remember once we'd gone for 2 months to Africa. And I think we were just 18, 19 at that age, And he's 3 years older. And I remember I said, I've had just enough of you. Please, let's not meet for 1 month, 2 months, day and night together. I can't take it. Of course, within a week, we were like, hello, when are we meeting? And, things like that. But so it was just that, another thing is both of us are that kind who have made changes in ourselves. Like I was saying that I don't see what's wrong in that. Like if it's your friend, it's your family, it's your sons or husband or mother-in-law or mother, you do some change in yourself to please them or make them happy. I don't think you're diminishing yourself or making yourself less. I think you're making yourself more. For example, I'll tell you, I love the color red, whereas Paresh loves me in pink. So I have like pink and red in my wardrobe. Does that make me less or more? You see, they would say, oh, just because your husband likes pink, you'd wear pink. Yes, of course, I would do that to please him. Or like if, my sons don't like me to wear red lipstick, if I'm with them, I would not wear it. How does it make it less? How do I become less? So I think all these, what do you think about yourself? If you are so empowered, if you've got such a great self-esteem, your life skills are great, it would be fine with your partner. And I think that's what we keep on working on together, because I think both of us are like that. The other thing is both of us are very simple. Paresh is even more simple than I am. When, for example, when we got the invite for the Padma Shri, no, for the national award, that was the first invite, the big stick level. I think I was just 35 that time. And I'm like, wow, Paresh, we both are going for the national award, and I'm going to wear this sari and I'm going to wear this jewelry. And then I said, hey, you won the prize. What are you going to wear? So he says, I think I'll wear my jeans and shirt. So I said, you can't. You need to dress up. So he says, if I go in my jeans and shirt, will the president not give me my award? I said, of course they'll have to give it to you. So he's saying, that's it. So he went in his jeans and shirt, and I went all dolled up. So I think that's what makes the relationship work.
Nice. Wonderful, wonderful insights there, Swaroop. And that kind of brings us almost to the home run as what my parting question to you before we wrap up this lovely conversation, and has some shades of what you said in the previous one, was had this conversation, done some research before having this discussion, seen a lot of the articles written about you, your video interviews. One thing that struck me, and that's what I thought I'll ask you on this conversation, was what's the secret sauce in your life? And now that you're mentioning about Paresh and your family, that makes you guys so humble, kind hearted, and above all, grounded despite all the successes and adulation that you ever had.
I don't know about anybody else. I can only talk for myself. I'm a very spiritual being. I am a Sanatan Dharma follower. I believe, like the message in the Gita, where it says, do your work. The fruit of your work is not what you have to seek. You just have to go on doing your work, and the fruits will come if and when they will come. The other thing is when Lord Krishna says that I am doing everything, I am, and we are Him. So through Him, whatever work I'm doing is that, and it doesn't allow me to become egoistic, because any workshop, any book, any written work, or anything I do, I know it's Him making me do it. So believe it or not, I go to the Haveli, which is just down the corner, Srinath Ji's Mandir, and I say, this is your work I'm doing. Please hold my hand. Let me do it. So in between, I had a little bit of a knee injury, and I'm going, no, there's so much more work I have to do. You have to make me well. And then I tell him that, Shiji Baba, if you want me to do the work, you better make me well. So that's it. I mean, seriously, it's not me. It's something greater than me.
A greater force that is making all of these wonderful things happen. So this show is all about creating ripples of inspiration. Before we say goodbye, Swaroop, what's your inspire someone today message to all the listeners?
If not you, then who? Get up and do it. It's so simple, I mean, like, I want to tell this to a million people who say a million things. Like people who say India's dirty, India's poor, India's this, India's that. Forget about the world, Let's just talk about our space. What did you do about it? So it's, if not now, then when? And if not you, then who?
Absolutely. On that note, my dear listeners, if not now, when? If not you, who else? Thanking Swaroop Sampat on this wonderful, wonderful conversation on the impact that she is making on the education revolution here in India and as a template for the world. Swaroop, thank you so much for sharing your insights and making time for Inspire Someone today. Thank you for listening into today's edition of Inspire Someone Today. It's been a privilege to bring in these conversations. This is Srikanth, your host, signing off, and until next time,
keep inspiring.